So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, there's some breaking news. It looks like the Canelo Alvarez and Demetrius Andrade fight dead for good. Um, it looks like Demetrius Andrade is going to leave Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn says that the contract with Demetrius Andrade and Eddie Hearn is going to come to an end because Eddie Hearn wasn't able to, or Eddie Hearn says that he wasn't able to secure Demetrius Andrade any big fights. It has been very poor. I would say there's certain fighters who I think Eddie Hearn has let down. Kell Brooks, one. And definitely Demetrius Andrade, another. I think Andrade, obviously a guy that people have been crying for somebody to get a big fight. And Demetrius Andrade decided to go with Hearn when he was kind of in limbo. And I do think that Hearn has made him a lot of money. I do think that, Hearn has probably made Andrade decent money, but it's sad the fact that, Hearn, being the promoter he is and being such a star, like he managed to deliver Billy Joe Saunders big fights. He managed to deliver Callum Smith, but he never really managed to deliver Demetrius Andrade any fights. The Charlo fight, the Canelo fight. And look, I understand Demetrius Andrade is a guy that a lot of people think, why do I need him? But you'd expect someone like Eddie Hearn to be able to deliver the fights. And for someone like Andrade, but as Eddie Hearn pointed out, if they don't want to fight Andrade, what can I do? I can't make people force. I can't, get people to jump in the ring with Andrade if they don't want to. There's not much I can do. He's tried his best. I don't think it's not, I don't think it's a case where, Eddie Hearn didn't want, I think Eddie Hearn wanted to make the fights, but unfortunately, a lot of guys don't want to get in the ring with Andrade. And I do think under Eddie Hearn, it's been a very frustrating period for Andrade because the fights just not have been happening. And Andrade's probably thinking, you know what, it's not worked out with Hearn. I've got to go elsewhere. I've got to go elsewhere and try to make this happen because my career is going nowhere. Really, his career is going nowhere. He's in limbo. He's struggling. When you think about it, Andrade is struggling. So I think Andrade kind of has no choice now but to kind of explore other options. But who's going to really want to sign Demetrius Andrade? I don't know. Who's going to want to sign Demetrius Andrade? Maybe, look, I think the best move for Demetrius Andrade would probably be to go with PBC. Because PBC have got David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo. So that puts him in the mix. But one thing we've noticed that a lot of those guys haven't even fought each other, and it's not been easy making those fights. So that's not necessarily going to guarantee him a big fight either. And Andrade needs to get a move on. It's obviously not worked out with Hearn in terms of securing big fights. I do think Hearn financially look after, taking care of him. But unfortunately, I just think that when it comes to the real super fights, Hearn hasn't been able to deliver because the guys really haven't really wanted to fight Andrade. So there's not much Hearn can do. So I think that maybe Andrade feels, look, Hearn's not been able to deliver, which he hasn't. It's time for me to kind of go elsewhere and see if I can make this work elsewhere because I haven't got long left. Andrade hasn't got long left. Andrade's on his way out, in my opinion. Like, he's 34 years of age. He hasn't got long left in this sport. And for me, if he wants a big fight, he needs to make a big play. I will say this. I think that puts the Canelo fight, I think the only way he's going to get the Canelo fight is if Canelo, wants to fight him in the future. I don't see him getting a Canelo fight now. Because although Hearn couldn't put pressure on Canelo to fight Andrade, and the fact that Hearn had such a good relationship with Canelo, he still wasn't really able to get him the fight with Andrade. That tells me, and not the fact that he's never really pushed Canelo in the sense that he's never said to Canelo, well, fight Andrade. Like, might have mentioned it, but I don't think, obviously, he wants to work with Canelo because Canelo's a cash cow. Andrade's really, like, who would you rather promote, Andrade or Canelo? Come on, it's quite blatant. Who would you rather promote? Who's financially the more lucrative out of the two? Who's the guy that you rather work with? Of course, Canelo Alvarez. But the fact is that Demetrius Andrade would have probably had a better chance of getting the fight with Canelo under Hearn than he would now without Hearn. But I think Canelo wasn't really that interested in Andrade. And I think Andrade now needs to move on. And Andrade probably needs to join the PBC because I think he'll have more of a chance of getting a fight with one of those guys over there. And I think Andrade needs to forget about Canelo now. I think Andrade needs to forget about Canelo now because I don't think the Canelo fight will ever happen. I think Andrade needs to think about, look, trying to make some big fights with those names, Charlo. And I think the best move for him would be to go with the PBC. That's where all the fighters are. Look, Plant's there, Charlo's there, Benavidez is there. So the right move would be to go to PBC and get fights with those guys. That's where all the fighters are at. You know, that's where all the fighters are at. And that's where he can have like a round robin with those guys. You know, he hasn't managed to secure a Golovkin fight. So DAZN's no longer an option because he's no longer being able to secure a fight with Golovkin. He's not being able to get a fight with Canelo Alvarez. And that's really who DAZN have. You know, everybody, like, that's, who else do DAZN have? They don't really have anybody else. So, yeah, Munguia's another one, and he's not been able to secure a fight with Munguia either. So I think DAZN is like for him, like a no-go now because he hasn't managed to secure fights with anybody. I think the fight that he you know, the way he needs to go is PBC. PBC have got all the fighters, and also there'd be big fights. If Andrade fights one of Charlo, Plant, Benavidez, there'd be big fights over there. Whereas, you know, the Golovkin fight's a big fight because of Golovkin's name and what Golovkin's done. But if we're honest, like, Golovkin isn't going to be interested in Demetrius Andrade. The only way I would see him being interested if he gets all the belts and Andrade would have the last belt. But the point is that Golovkin and Charlo's not going to happen. So that's not going to happen. So like I said, I think Andrade's kind of got only one option, and that's PBC. I think he should sign with them and then have a few fights, see how he gets on, and then maybe ride off into the sunset. Maybe that's what Andrade's going to have to do because the Canelo fight ain't happening. You know, the Canelo fight ain't happening. That fight's dead as far as I'm concerned. And that dream of Andrade wanting to fight Canelo is not going to happen now. Because I think the fact that even with Hearn, it was he weren't getting it. Without Hearn going to another platform, a platform which Canelo may go back on, who knows, you know. But I think his relationship with Hearn is pretty good. I think the only time he's going to not be with Hearn is if he wants a fight with like Beterbiev to become undisputed, when he wants something. But I think anytime where Canelo's making the decisions on what he wants to do, I think Canelo's just going to proceed with Hearn because I think Canelo likes Hearn. I think he gets on with Hearn, and I think he has a great relationship with Hearn. So I just think that unless Canelo is getting involved in a fight which he wants really badly, like he was with Plant, where he wanted to be undisputed, I think Canelo's going to do all his fights with Eddie Hearn. And Andrade's not going to be on the list of Eddie Hearn, even though Canelo is the one that decides his fights, not Eddie Hearn. Canelo will just tell Eddie Hearn what he wants to do. And that's why I think Eddie Hearn realized that Canelo's not interested in Andrade a long time ago. Hence why he didn't push the issue, because he's thinking to himself, I don't want to pee Canelo off because Canelo's a way bigger star than Demetrius Andrade. And I want Canelo. I want to promote Canelo. So, you know, Eddie Hearn's not going to try call Canelo out for not fighting Demetrius Andrade. He did it with Golovkin. He said Golovkin should fight. But he never did it with Canelo Alvarez because he wants to promote Canelo Alvarez because how big a star Canelo is. You know, and Eddie Hearn doesn't want to get on the wrong side of Canelo Alvarez, and you'd be stupid to. But at the same time, you'd have to say he's done Andrade a bit of a disservice because he's not really pushed the drum. He's not really beat the... And like I said, I've just explained to you why he hasn't. But at the end of the day, it's disappointing. It's disappointing as a fan because I would have loved to see the Andrade-Canelo fight. It would have been a very good fight. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen now. And that's another fight that's probably in the future going to be remembered as a fight that we would have loved to have seen, really. Especially with the beef with two guys. I just think Canelo has a bit of a dislike for Andrade, probably. And he doesn't really want to give him that payday. And that's what it comes down to, I think. And that's where boxing has changed from the past. I feel like this is a fight which I think there is a bit of public demand for it. And I've always hoped that Canelo fights Demetrius Andrade, but it looks like Canelo doesn't have that much interest. Not the fact someone pointed out, oh, Imran, are you saying Canelo's scared? Of course he's not scared of Andrade. You know, of course he's not scared of Demetrius Andrade. Just probably he doesn't like the guy. He probably thinks the guy's not really fought anybody and he's looking to skip to a payday with himself. But I don't know. I don't know. It's a fight that I would have liked to have seen. I think it would have been some needle there. I think it would have had anything. I think stylistically it's a good fight. But the point is, I think Andrade needs to do more now. I think Andrade needs to forget about this fight, and Andrade needs to take control of his own career and forget about Canelo. Because at the end of the day, I felt like he spent too long chasing Canelo. But I wouldn't even say that. I think Andrade's been chasing everybody, really, you know, towards the back end. He has been chasing everybody. Unfortunately, things are not working out for Demetrius Andrade. And Andrade's now in a position where he has to now, the next move has to be the right move. And I personally think the right move would be for him to go with PBC, because that's where all the big fighters that he wants to fight are at. Barring Canelo, which is a fight that I don't think he's going to get. Because if Andrade was going to get a Canelo fight, he would have got it by now. You know, he hasn't got a Canelo fight. So I'd be very surprised if he gets that fight, because if he was going to get a Canelo fight, it would have happened by now. So I think he has to move on. Move on with his career and move on and try getting one of those fights with the PBC boys over there. So like that's what I think he should do. Waiting around for Canelo is pointless. Waiting around for Saul Alvarez, I think personally is stupidity at this point. Because he's 34, he hasn't got long left in the game. You know, he's coming. Probably some people think he's past his prime. He probably is. But yeah, he needs to say to himself, you know what, the Canelo fight's finished. I need to go out and now look for a fight with Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo, David Benavidez. That's where the big fights lie. And to be honest, I think a fight with him and Benavidez is probably going to be most likely, because I think both of them have the same kind of attitude at this point. They're just desperate to get a big fight. So I think that's probably a fight that probably happens. But we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys make of this news? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you're thinking. Guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.